The border wall, you're going to see lots of conservatives vote against it because it's not what the American people want.
But House Speaker Paul Ryan has a different view. He helped negotiate it. He met with the president yesterday as well and says no bill this size is perfect. And he believes, if I could jump ahead and get into your mind a little bit, you believe Jim Jordan is wrong. This is not the worst bill ever. Why is he wrong, Mr. Speaker? Nice to see you.
First of all, good morning, guys. Good to see you. He is wrong. Look, Jim's never voted for one of these bills ever. I don't expect him to do it in any time near future. First of all, this doesn't fund Gateway, and it does fund the wall. So let me just step back for a second. Do you know how long the funding of this bill lasts? 6 months.
September.
Right. Yeah, 6 months. This is not a 10-year bill, 6 months. And so what we did in this bill is we funded in the next 6 months exactly the budget request the administration asked us for the border. It's funny, we passed this bill. The House passed all these bills back in September, and we passed them with Republican-only votes. This has the exact same funding for the border in this bill that we funded back in September with all Republican votes. So it's kind of interesting. People are sort of saying different things now. But here's the point. The administration asked for 74 miles of border funding, border wall funding. We did about 100 in this bill. So we actually exceeded what the administration asked us for the border. And here's the deal on the border. We asked the Border Patrol, what do you need on the border? And what they tell us is the conditions on the ground determine what kind of wall they want in different types of places. So, for instance, they want concrete barrier with a fence on top with earth behind it in the Rio Grande Valley so it doesn't get washed away in floods. In the desert, they want a see-through wall so they can see what's going on through it. We do that. So we basically say to the Border Patrol, what do you need? Here's your resources. And it's $1.6 billion for the next 6 months, which is exactly what the president asked for.
But didn't the president say he's not going to just start to build the wall? He wants all the funding in place and then he'll build the entire thing?
Well, we want to get it going right now. We don't want to wait until we can get a multi-year bill passed. Here's the problem with this process, which I hate as well. The Senate has a filibuster. And the reason we're coming up against the deadline of the government, stopping its funding tomorrow is because of the Senate filibuster. So we fund government 1 year at a time. That's how the budget process works.
Sure.
So we're going to fund the wall 1 year at a time. In this case, for the next 6 months. On Gateway, in the bill that passed earlier, there was something that was like an earmark for Gateway. It said all these mass transit funds that big cities get, they wrote it in such a way that really only New York would get the money. We repealed that language. That's not in here anymore. We took that language out. Now the administration, meaning the president, gets to decide which cities get this mass transit money as part of his infrastructure plan.
The last question on the wall.
I'm just trying to clear up some of the misinformation.
Just on the wall real quick.
Okay.
On $1.6 billion. The $1.6 billion is the total. Is that wrong? Because I only heard $650 million goes to the wall.
No, it's 1.6 total for the 1.6 for the entire. But the border also, you need fences, you need cameras, you need electronic devices, you need these you need the aerial devices to be able to police it. In the mountainous areas, you can't build a wall over a mountain, so you need cameras and you need drones up there. So it's a border wall system that the Border Patrol tells us they need, and so we fund their request based on what they say they need to secure the border, and it's different kinds of wall based on different kinds of conditions on the ground, and that's what we fund.
And it's not the wall that the president went out and inspected the prototypes
No, there's a bunch of those. So those prototypes, by the way, there's more than one based on the different conditions. So in a river valley, you don't want just a stand-up wall that can get washed away in a flood next year. You want something to stand up against a flood. We do that. It's called a levee with a fence on top. And so that's the kind of stuff we do.
Ultimately, Mr. Speaker, the president has said, I need $20 billion for the wall.
That takes over a number of years, right? So this is 1.6 over the next 6 months.
Exactly. But some had suggested that maybe with this omnibus spending bill, they might be able to get the wall and the DACA provisions as well. And we had heard earlier in the week that apparently behind closed doors, you guys were negotiating with the Democrats to go ahead and provide relief for these DACA kids. But apparently the Democrats were not interested, which shocks me.
That's right. So we, the president and I and other leaders in the House and Senate, offered that to the Democrats. They said no. So we said, well, let's do multi-year funding for the wall, for multi-year relief for the DACA kids. And they walked away from that. They wouldn't take that. So what we're doing here is there isn't a DACA solution here. We have the wall in here for the next 6 months. Oh, by the way, we also fund the president's opioid campaign to combat opioid abuse. The president asked us to put fixed NICS in the school safety bill in here so we can plug these loopholes. There's something, by the way, the NRA supports. And the school safety issue, that's in here. So we have, I can tell you, look at, by the way, I'm looking at this right here. The biggest increase in the military in 15 years, the biggest pay raise for our men and women in uniform in 8 years.
I know, that's wonderful.
You need to rebuild our military. Look, we just lost these 2 F-18 pilots just last week. We lost 4 times as many people in training accidents in the military last year than we did in combat. Why? Because Obama shortchanged our military. This fixes this. This is the Trump Jim Mattis budget for the military. That's probably the biggest victory here, is what we're doing for our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen, our Marines, and our veterans. This fixes that massive problem. So this funds the wall, fixes the military, fights opioids, does the things that we said, and does not fund Gateway, gives Donald Trump the decision on Gateway.
All right, Mr. Speaker, we know you got a busy day. You got to get a bunch of yeses. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, take care.
Thank you.